Welcome back to my Barossa kitchen, and something simple and beautiful, but it all depends on the produce. I'm going to do chicken breasts that will cook in about 15 minutes and be the most beautiful dinner after they've marinated a little. I've picked from the garden my curly kale that grows like a weed. It's so amazing. And as well, I also grow black kale or cavolo nero in the garden. See, I'm just pulling the big thick stem away, or the kale away from the big thick stem. So that's that. From the garden, it's always going to be the best, but buy it in the supermarket, the markets, wherever you can. I love it in my smoothies. Did I tell you that? Whatever fruit I have, kale and yogurt and a bit of ginger and apple at the moment, because that's what I have. It just makes the best smoothie. It's very good for you. Getting back to the chicken, never ever buy chicken breast that doesn't have its skin. It is never ever going to be as good. Even if you think you shouldn't be eating the skin, and I don't understand why, it is the way of protecting the bird from the cooking to keep it beautifully moist. But this is this is a trick to show you how, not a trick, an idea, to show you how we eat with our eye. And I'm going to marinate these chicken breasts in rosemary, and that's another thing that grows amazingly well in the garden. Needs very little water, so in our Mediterranean climate. And yes, I have lots, so I'm overdoing it. I want some salt, I want olive oil, but when I can use vino cotto, or you could use balsamic if you don't have it, different, but we'll get the idea of it. What that does, let me just take my rings off because I'm going to have to pat the chicken. What the vino cotto does is give the most beautiful golden colour to the skin that you can't get without overcooking a chicken breast just by waiting for it to go golden in the oven. So, okay, we have lots of that. Oh, now I go one step further, by the way. I happen to love Seville oranges. I have one big tree growing here, and Seville orange is what makes our fantastic marmalade. But we also make, just at the farm, we make a Seville vino cotto. But because that's hard to get, because we have to come to the farm when we ever open again, is a little bit of the vino cotto, and then because I want that orange flavour, that I would just use the Seville vino cotto for, but I'm going to show you a little bit of marmalade, because really that's what we're talking about. I'm going to make sure this gets sort of squashed around, so we've got the olive oil, we've got the vino cotto and a bit of Seville marmalade, or as I use, the Seville vino cotto. And I'm going to just leave those there, making sure both sides have got the marinade. Wash your hands, of course, and on to the next. I have the water boiling to blanch the kale. And of course, this works for any sort of kale, and there are lots of different kales. There's a purple kale, there's a cavolo nero, but having stripped it off its stem, having already washed it, if you haven't grown it yourself, but I have to say, I haven't washed it because all my veggie gardens are raised high, so I take my chances. Blanch the kale because it will be finished off in the same pan as the chicken breast. Always trying to minimize washing up, though for 50 years of marriage, I cook, Colin washes up. But I don't want to leave it all to Chris because she's the other side of the camera, so I'm being careful. So came back to the boil really quickly. Now the thing is, I'm going to blanch this for 2 minutes and then strain it, but I picked it this morning from fairly young kale. It's I've been picking it for a week or two. If you were to buy it and it's an older leaf, and how would you tell? It just doesn't look as alive. Then you will need to cook it for longer. I would normally do this at my sink, which is press the moisture out of it for sure. Now, I would eat it just like that with olive oil and salt. But if you're a kale skeptic, as I suspect 3/4 of the country are, then I'm going to do it slightly different to last time where I cooked it with apple. I was reminded by one of the comments of an Italian listener who said she cooked her kale with raisins. So I have some currants that have been sitting in verjuice to reconstitute, or half verjuice, half water. Verjuice isn't essential, you could just use water, but what the verjuice does, or some lemon juice, is to pick up that flavour of the currant, so it intensifies. So because I'm not going to do the last part of that until the chicken is about to come out of the oven, I'm putting that aside. Hot pan, tablespoon of butter, and when I get that butter sizzling, I'm just going to add the smallest drizzle of the extra virgin olive oil so it won't burn the butter. So while that's on, some salt onto the skin. Now, I weighed these chook breasts. I couldn't call them a chicken breast because they're quite voluminous. Each of these breasts is around 320 grams, so it's from a big, beautiful chook. Skin on being the most important thing. So the cooking times that I will give you for this will have no relationship to if you have a chicken breast 180 to 220 grams. You always have to pull back the time. I've already said I'll put some oil in, but can you hear it's coming to that sizzle now? Which is when I put the oil in. Okay, just a smallest drizzle is all you need. Now, the reason I've got this enamel plate, I love these enamel plates that I use in the oven, is because I will start the chicken on this pan, but because of its rubber handle, I won't be able to put it in the oven. So I try and be organized in advance, right? But this is also the pan that I will finish off the kale and the currants with. That's the sizzle I want, but this is only just a big enough pan to take these very large breasts. Right, now I'll put the other one in. You've always got to be careful of not poaching. So I'm going to cook 39. I'm going to cook 2 minutes on that skin side before I even look. Okay? Hold me to it, Chris. This is really important that I don't burn, but this is where you get that beautiful colour that makes such a difference to the flavour. And it's not just eating with our eye. You know, as soon as we see something that looks beautiful, we know it's going to taste beautiful, mostly. I can see the pan is kind of burning from the marmalade, but see how I turn that over? Can you see how beautiful that is? And I made sure I turned over the one that went in the pan first. Give that just a little more time. Now we're going to do, that's 2 minutes all up now, and it's turned over. So the pan stage is probably only going to be 3 to 4 minutes all told. Then I will time it as it goes into the oven. But I don't know about you, but for me, I know I'm going to love this because it looks so fantastic. And if you wanted that colour, which is what I do, and just had it in the oven, you would overcook the chicken to bejesus just by trying to get the colour. So it's that vinacotto, or you could have used straight marmalade or balsamic, or as I do, my Seville vinacotto. All of those will give you that lovely, lovely colour. Okay, all right, now I'm putting it in the oven after 3 minutes only. Forget the 4, 3 will do. Now, I want every little bit of those juices. And I've got to make sure, because it would be better if I had a pan that could go straight into the oven. I just want to make sure that we've got those juices on the base. Right, so 3 to 4 minutes there. That's slightly bigger than the other. I'll put them in the oven now. I have 210 degrees, and we're going to put the timer on for 10 minutes, and I'll let you know how they're going. All right, 10 minutes, and look, I'm just drizzling the smallest amount, only a tablespoon of verjuice, and let me show you. I know from experience that these are cooked, yet if you look inside there's a little bit of pinkness, but that will, you must leave them for a good 10 minutes. Again, same, about equivalent of cooking time as resting time to carve them, but just to prove to you that they are cooked into the deepest, thickest part, I will show you. They have to be 65 to be safe, and they're coming up to they're 64, 64.9, and that is perfection. So that was the biggest, thickest breast, is exactly 67.1. Now 10 minutes, but I am going to leave it. I don't need to leave this in any longer. It's just going up to 67.4, so it's not much beyond that. It will be so perfect, but it won't be perfect unless we rest it, and then we can carve it and it will be sumptuous. And we will use these juices, and I will a couple of minutes in to the resting. It will only take a moment to do the kale and the currants, so I want it all to be warm. But one of the things important, it must go on a warm plate. So now the kale, so you'll love it. First, get your pan hot. I forgot to do that. Have ready the currants. Now, sometimes I remember to put my dried fruit in verjuice or verjuice and water overnight, but if I forget, on defrost in the microwave for 1 minute for currants and a bit longer for sultanas and raisins. So the difference, it plumps them up, and having verjuice, but you could do it lemon juice and water too, that acid against the sweetness the gentle acid of the verjuice or the lemon juice and water just makes the flavour pop. Right. A few tablespoons, that's 2 tablespoons of olive oil, perfectly measured. Oh, it's probably only 1. Okay, right, can you hear the sizzle? Hardly any spitting. And now, because I put salt in the water, when I blanched it, I don't need any salt now. And really, all I'm doing is warming it up. That's a little more of that beautiful olive oil. It's got to be, for me, it has to be a robust oil, full of flavour itself. Interestingly, it is April. We will be picking our olives next Tuesday. Now that is really exciting. Now making sure, see, I still have a really good colour in that. Just needs a bit more warming through, and that last bit of cooking, because it seems like everyone loves something that's sauteed rather than boiled. Not everyone. Okay, that's there. About 1/4 of a cup of the currants that have been reconstituted. Now, it doesn't need any more salt. A little pepper. Turn off, there's enough temperature in the pan for it just to keep going. And the currants are just to give that little surprise, that little burst. Beautiful green with these little surprises underneath. This is our favourite way of eating, I'm sure I've said it before, is to put things on a plate in the middle of the table, and then people help themselves. Now, these breasts are so large. Remember, they're about 315, 320 average. This will feed 4 people. Now, let me show you the carving. Always use your sharpest knife. Not that you need to carve, but if you're sharing, it's much easier, and these are far too much for one. But see, what I want to show you is how juicy and moist that chicken is. That is, it would be a crime to overcook. An absolute crime. So, there we go. Again, see that juiciness, but perfect cooking. And I'll put that there. Then all these juices, you could serve them separately, but I'm not going to. Chicken does need salt. And here, these juices, the resting juices, will make the most fantastic sauce and give even more flavour to your kale. So there you have it. Because I've used rosemary in the cooking, if you want to have something to make, just pretty it up a little, use what you've used in the cooking, and there you have it. Now the actual cooking, under 15 minutes in total, 4 minutes for the kale, but the resting period. And the marinade beforehand. But see how easy and it is. I can tell you, it's wonderful.